how to do a switch case in Python. Let's talk about that in this video. I am frequently asked the question about how to do a switch case in Python. Now, let's talk about that in this video. The main point to note here is that in Python, before Python version 3.10, we did not have any switch case or any version of it. In Python 3.10, which is currently in beta, we do have something like switch case, which Python calls match case, and we will talk about that in this video. So the first point to note here is the syntax. Now, the initial keyword is match, and then after match you write down the subject. The subject is the name of the variable for which you want to compare the value. Next, you indent one place and then you write the next keyword, which is called case. Now the case word is used to match the subject with each individual value. In this syntax example, we are matching the value of the subject with value 1, and then if it is same as value 1, then we execute some statements. Similarly, in case it matches with value 2, we execute a few other statements. Now, it is important to note that Python goes from the top towards the bottom, which means that Python will keep looking for matches starting from the first one, and then it will keep looking as long as it does not match. As soon as it matches once, it will stop the execution. So let's go into an example. Let's say I have a status code which is 500, which is a bad example. So let's start with 400. We have a status code 400 which has been returned from somewhere, let's say as a response to a HTTP request, and we want to print or output or perform different results based on the response code. Okay, so how we can do this is we will match the status code and we will create different cases. So for example, let's create a few cases where if it matches 200 we want to print success, and if it matches 400 we want to print bad request, so on and so forth. Okay, now the most important thing to note here in this tiny example is number 1, we can perform multiple operations or multiple instructions or multiple statements inside one case block. Okay, so that's the first. And the second thing that we will note, as soon as I run it, keep an eye out on the console. As soon as I run it, it says bad request, right? So how this works is it started here and then it tried to match the first case to 200. Now 200 obviously does not match 400, right? So it went to the next case and now it matches because 400 is equal to 400 and therefore it executes this statement and it's done. Okay, it does not execute the other ones, it does not even bother looking for the others. Now similarly, if I make it 500, then it will execute these two blocks. That's pretty simple, right? It executes these two blocks which are from here, and that's it. Now another interesting point to note here is the underscore or wildcard character. This block or this case is matched only when none of the cases at the top are matched. So if I make the 500 say 5001, then you can see that there is no case to match that. So when I execute it, you see it says something is wrong, which is this statement, right? So this is very handy in case you want to do something when none of your expected cases are matching. For example, you can raise an error, send a notification probably via an email, or log something somewhere. That's pretty simple using the underscore. One important thing about this wildcard case is that it is not mandatory. So you can choose not to use this as well, right? There will be no errors or something. It will simply not give you any output. Okay, so that's pretty simple. That's pretty cool. Okay. you are coming from a different programming language, then you will find that Python's match case is far more capable when compared with switch cases of other languages. For example, I modified the previous example a little bit. So now instead of comparing a single variable, we are comparing a variable which has a tuple in the value. Okay. Now what we can do here, we can simply match one value of the tuple, or we can match both values of the tuple, or we can match one value and take the other value as a variable. So what this means is, let's execute this example. Okay, so when I execute it, you see that when it is matching with 500 and message, then we have a name binding of the message variable name with this value, and therefore when I try to print the msg variable message, you see that internal server error, the string which was the second part of the tuple is designated as message. So this is one examples. Now if I change the value to 200, then it will not match anyone, right? Because the first case says match if it is 200. Now if I say match if it is 200 and anything else, right? And whatever, and does not matter whatever the second value is, then it will match and it will show success. So it is pretty simple. And if we want to see what was the second value of the tuple, you can simply print that as well, right? So let's print xyx, and if you print that, you will see that the internal server error value goes into xyx. Okay, so here is the thing, this matching is a lot more capable than a simple switch case, and there is a huge documentation, a lot of things that you can do with this. Okay, so this is the basics, this is the trick, and if you want to learn more about this, I will link the official Python documentation down in the descriptions, and you can simply go through it. It's pretty long, but it's written in fairly simple language, so it should be pretty easy to understand, but you don't need to go through it unless you need those extra capabilities. Okay, so that's it for today's video. See you in the next video.